What is going on, everyone? This is Ryan with Automatic Comics. And if you've been watching the channel, you know I did a review on the Superman movie. It seems like, in general, people have, for the most part, enjoyed that movie. I really liked it. I felt like one of the standout characters, stars of the movie was Mr. Terrific. I loved the acting that was done. I love how that character was portrayed. I liked the costume and everything. It was just this over the top. It's one of those where you're not really sure how it's going to translate because it's extremely comic accurate, that costume was. And I felt like it translated really, really well. It was a lot of fun. But with that, it made me think that people might be hunting for his first appearance and what the values are in that book, if you should maybe be trying to pick that up and the potential that could go up in the future, because there are rumors like this going out right now where it says DC Studios recent copyright filing teases future Mr. Terrific project. And so this was filed very soon after the release of the movie. I think it was when he was basically seen as, like I said, one of the breakout stars from this movie. And so you might have people thinking like, oh, I should go out and pick up this book and be thinking that it's guaranteed to go up in the future and all that. And I want to tell you, I would not be buying this book right now. And I'm going to get into why. Now, if you're thinking about picking up a Mr. Terrific first appearance, there's actually two of them that are out there. There are two different Mr. Terrifics in the history of DC. The first one is Terry Sloan. His first appearance is in Sensation Comics #1 back in 1942, which is also the second appearance of Wonder Woman, first cover appearance of Wonder Woman. That is a book that costs tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. If you want to pick up a copy of Sensation Comics #1, I don't think that the first appearance of Terry Sloan, the original Mr. Terrific, is going to really be the driving factor in the price of that book. So if you're watching that and you're paying attention to prices or whatever, and you think it's reasonable to pick up, sure, go for it. Now, the Mr. Terrific that is in this movie is a person by the name of Michael Holt. His first appearance is much, much later. It is in Spectre #54 from 1997. So I'm going to show you that book. This is that book, Spectre #54 from 1997. And you can see that we have had quite a few sales lately, especially since he's been known to be in the movie and now that he is popular. I mean, look at all these. And they're not going that cheap. I mean, these are raw books from 1997. I mean, these are modern books and going for $100, $90, like a group of them for $150. But really the value is in that one book. 200, 155, 130, 140, 110, 100, a 9.8 here for 567. I mean, all this kind of stuff. I mean, these are not cheap books. And if we look at GPA or GP analysis, you can see that we did have an increase, like kind of a spike up here to $1,000 in the comic boom. It's come back down some. But if you look at the prices of this book, prior to that comic boom period, $100 book, $150 book, that kind of thing, in a 9.8. And this is a modern book. I mean, honestly, you want to get a 9.8. If you want the book ungraded, so be it. That's fine. But if you're getting the book in a graded form, you want the 9.8 with something modern like this. But we can see here, this book right now, I mean, it was going around $400 before the movie came out. And then movie comes out and it starts spiking up, 500, 600. People are excited about that character. But I'm here to tell you, that is a very risky proposition if you are buying this book in this peak FOMO period right now. And I'll tell you why. So first, we're going to jump over to, what I did. And just if you use GPA and you want some little tips on how to get to things relatively quickly, this little link over here on the right edge of each one of the sales takes you to that book's cert number at CGC. And so, for example, if I close this one out and I click on this little link right here, it's going to open up the CGC page and it's going to take me to that book. It'll take a little second to load. Take me to that book and you see this one was graded relatively recently. So we have a picture of it. Tells me that there's 138 and 9.8 and 0 in higher grades. I can use that link right there. I'm going to close this out too, just so you kind of see me walk through it. I can use this link right here to take me to the actual population report. And from that, we can see here there are currently 154 9.8s, 87 9.6s, so on. And there's 348 total graded copies. Now, this might make you think like, oh, this is a relatively rare book, or a book that you don't come across often, or a rare book in a 9.8. And I know rare is a sensitive word, but like rare relative to other modern books, uncommon. But the fact of the matter is, in my opinion, it's because this book, up until relatively recently, didn't have that much value. And so if you're looking at this book prior to now, I mean, and if we go before the comic boom just like throw everything off. This is $100 to $150 book. You can see here, it's hardly worth getting graded. Once the book starts having $500 and $600 sales, people send them in to get graded. And when you look at a 9.6, I mean, even a 9.6, look at that, $358 for a 9.6, $250. Like, these are grades now where you're going to have people flood CGC with that book, and that can drive down the price. And I want to show you something that you can use to help figure out what those numbers might end up being, how much, how many of those books are out there. And that's this website called Comicron. It doesn't work for everything. It is a little better now than it used to be. I remember when I've tried to use this in the past, it can be kind of a mess, but it is one source that you can use to get approximate print runs, or the number of copies that were printed of a specific book. And so with this, you can go to the monthly sales data. And so this book, you can see here, was from, if we kind of like zoom in on the, the cert number for this book, you can see it was from June of 97. But June of 97 is not when it was actually printed or made available. That was actually, I believe it was April of 97. And so what you do is they've got all the years here. You can scroll down and you can find, sometimes they have the data, sometimes they don't. So we'd go down to April. And if we go to April here and we search for Spectre, we can see Spectre number 54. That's this book. It has an estimated print run of 21,329. And so this is 1997. People are bagging and boarding their comics. There are likely quite a few very nice high-grade copies of this book out there. When we compare that to the CGC census, just 348 graded out of that total of 21,329. There's probably a lot left out there. Now, what can we use for a comparison? Because there was another book that really spiked that was very common, and that was West Coast Avengers number 45. This is that first appearance of the White Vision. And so we can go and find out what the approximate print run was of this book. And if we go to Comicron, unfortunately, they don't have that exact issue in their data, but what they do have is, if we go to West Coast Avengers, they do have issue 49. So I'm just going to assume that it was a very similar print run for issue 49 as it was for issue 45. And that was roughly 40,000, 39,600. So about twice as many as we had for Spectre number 54. But this is also quite a bit earlier. This book, you can see here, was from 1989. So 8 years earlier. So it was an earlier book. So it's more likely maybe a little more damage, but they're still going to be in pretty high grade. And if we jump over to the census for West Coast Avengers, you can see here, there are 2,578 graded copies out of that approximately 40,000, with 332 9/8, 639 9/6, all that kind of thing. And like I said, this is a little bit older book, so you're more likely to get the 9.8 with the Spectre book. If we go look at GPA, you can see what happened with that book. This book spiked during the comic boom and when that character showed up in the WandaVision show. And at this point, there were very few. When this spiked, there were very few 9/8s of that book out there and available. And then people are like, oh, this book, look here. I mean, sold for $2,000. But even, it had a period here where it was selling for $1,500, $1,400, $1,300, whatever. And then all of a sudden, everybody starts getting their copies back, and it drops and it drops and it drops. And it continues to drop for the next 4 years until where we're at now, which is about $150 to $175 for that 9.8. Now, the print run, like I said, isn't quite as big for Spectre 54. It's about half as much, but you could still probably make an educated guess that then maybe there's going to be 1,300 copies that would come out. And if there's 1,300 copies that come out, and we compare that to the Spectre, that is over four times as many. And almost all those people are sending them in to sell them. So they're going to come out and then they're going to get put up for sale, and that's going to drive down prices. So if it was me and I was interested in getting this book and buying it in a 9.8 or whatever, I personally would probably wait at least 6 months, if not a year, to see what happens after this movie has come out, because this is going to be one of those big triggers that is going to cause people to go looking through their boxes, looking through like bins at LCSs and all that kind of thing, trying to find this book and sending them in. And then you're going to see them come up for sale in an even higher volume. And you're going to see the prices, in my opinion, very likely drop pretty drastically. So if it was me, I would wait. I do think that given the popularity of this character and the fact that they may be having a, more specific properties dedicated to him, that, yeah, maybe it ends up being worth more than this book was in 2018 or 2019. Maybe it becomes a $200 book instead of a $100 book or a $75 book. But right now it's going for $400, $500, $600. And I could very easily see that come back down to that like $150 to $200 price point. But just something to be aware of. I just like, this is the type of book where I feel like people could really get burned if they rush out trying to buy 9.8s right now. If you're getting the book raw and you're getting it graded and get it for a reasonable price, I mean, that's probably quite a bit less risk. But buying the graded copies, I mean, 180 for a 9.4, 145 for a 9.2. Like, I could easily see this book in a 9.8 dropping down to these types of prices after all kind of the volume gets worked through at CGC or PSA or whoever's grading them. But just thought that this would be useful. I just also wanted to kind of share some of these little tools that you can use, like Comicron, and, the CGC census and all that kind of thing for figuring out what types of volumes might be out there for these books, especially more modern books. But if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell, and I will see you on the next one.